So, one thing that I thought was really off about the video with James and Brian was that Brian noted that he felt like David Solomon had another victim besides what he was claiming was himself and James. So, there's another victim that he's taken advantage of. He thinks he says David Solomon's taking advantage of all of us. Anybody who even might believe his story is all just we're all being manipulated. We're just stupid, gullible people who are so easily manipulated by David Solomon and his wizardry. Because apparently he's so much of a wizard, he was able to convince James in 3 days to uproot him and his entire family to a whole nother state. That's some real fucking wizardry right there. But we're the gullible ones. But he says there's another victim, right? He says David Solomon has another victim. And he goes on to say that he believes that this poor guy, this poor old man, was taken advantage by David, and David used him for money so that he could get around and hide, and he's basically using this guy to fund his adventures, as Brian would call him. And then he goes on to Dux, the guy that he just said was a victim of David's. So he doxes what he believes is already a victim, thus re-victimizing the victim. And I think it's funny.
The second thing is I know he was scamming at least one person out of money. I don't know if you want to mention names in this case.
Feel free. He's doxed pretty much everybody, so yeah.
Well, Stephen Reimers, he claims that Stephen Reimers is his stepfather, which isn't true. He also, Stephen Reimers is a retired engineer from the Northeast U.S. and got Stephen to finance his travels. He was conning them, he was scamming them. And my understanding is that Stephen was a retired engineer. I think he was 74 years old. And was into conspiracy theories.
Oh, dear.
So David, I think he was David then, convinced him that I was building nuclear bombs in Oregon, and they had to go to Oregon to dismantle them, and that's how that started, and that has lasted. It might still be going on because I know that
he was like so happy. Should I dox him? Oh, well, they doxed us, so why not? This is who he doxed. The victim that he claims is a victim of David's, by the way. This is who he is.
And I want to thank you for the support and prayers and awareness that you brought to what's going on in our country about child trafficking. I think this is going to be my last video for a while. I can barely see. I can only stand up for a few minutes and then I have to lay back down. I can't drive anymore. I'm so exhausted all the time.
Brian must be so proud of himself for doxing that guy. And another thing, like they seem to be attacking people with illnesses and cancers. Like the way they talk about the mom, like the mom's the mastermind. What? 2 minutes ago she was laying on her deathbed with cancer. Now you think she's the mastermind of everything? Make up your mind. Is she the mastermind or is she laying on her deathbed with cancer? And they're like, we don't even know if she has cancer. But then a minute later that we knew she had cancer because she had a big old thing on her face. These people, they fucking target the weak and the vulnerable.
For real victim's story because it's real, and then just pawn it off as your own. As long as you've got it memorized, you can just recall it like that because you've got it memorized. But that was really offensive when we were looking into that. I was really angry as that proceeded to watch that. It was gross. So I think that he spends a lot of time doing his homework and covering his, all the loops and things. And I'm kind of the opinion that his mom probably trained him to do this. He's probably been doing this for his whole life, which lets him be exceptionally skilled at it. If you've been doing this your entire life, and like you say, he can lie on the drop of a dime as if it's just no problem. He can just lie just like that. That's, I suppose that's makes him believable, not being, tripped up.
That's the impression that we got.
These guys are the worst fucking liars I've ever seen.
He says that she's deceased. Is there proof of that at all?
I've seen a couple of records that show her as deceased. In any photographs I see now, she's not with him, and she was always at his side back then. When I knew him. So that is one statement he's made that probably is true, because she was extremely sickly. So that's something that probably is true.
Yeah.
You agree, James?
I don't have any evidence, but he did call me recently, I would say maybe 2 years ago, for the purpose of telling me that his mother had passed. And it was a very short conversation, not a lot of drama, but he felt like I had an obligation to know, which is baffling considering you can't reconcile that. He said that he was 17 years old. This was 2011, November, December. And throughout December, they continued talking and they learned a lot about each other, and they really bonded. They started talking about private life, and Solomon shared that his mother was going through cancer, except it wasn't breast cancer. It was cancer of the face of the neck. And when we went to pick him up in Oregon City, she indeed had a large swelling that was noticeable, about the size of an apple. So it, like I said, it wasn't breast cancer. It was a different tumor, a different kind of tumor. And
so by their own fucking admission, she's got a big ass fucking tumor the size of an apple on her face, but she's the mastermind of some big generational plot where she's instilled this anger in her son to go after these guys, like through her cancer for no reason. It couldn't possibly be because they kidnapped her son, Nathaniel, right? Isn't that what they said his name was based on his birth certificate? But somehow they didn't know what his name was. And I seen the birth certificate, so I know. And what's this? A sign that they had out for him. Nathaniel will always love you. Come home. They were missing their baby. She was missing her kid because he was taken. He was a missing child. This is how parents react when your kid's missing. The worst part is that at the end, they're all like, oh, we're worried about the kid. We're worried about his kid. We don't think his kid's safe because he was malnutritioned as a kid. He must be starving his own kid, and we need to get DCF involved to take her kid away. Which is like, hello, red flag. How are you today? They're literally repeating the trauma that happened to him. They're re-victimizing him by trying to make him relive the trauma that he experienced as a child and threatening his son.
Right. So, at this point, I don't know what we all can do other than just to share out this message. I'm certain that I'm going to be dragged through the mud now with him. Whatever, it is what it is. But this whole situation, him kind of scurrying across the country, now he's got a girlfriend or a wife or something, and now he's taking care of a small child, which is concerning to me for a number of reasons. That a small child is in his care, and his wife or girlfriend Amanda seems to be all in. Seems that she's put her chips all in on this as well, because she is working hand in hand with him to create this fascinating for out there story. But in the midst of it, we have this small child, which is very concerning, especially because we don't know where he is. And so,
because we don't know, bitch, you don't need to know where that kid is. That bitch, they ain't never gonna know where that kid is. Oh man, these people make me mad.